All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is what we are calling week 6 of PE for the spring semester at Sprayberry High School. This is Coach DeWeese. So let's get rolling with our next week. We're going to introduce some new things coming out of our break and get into some new principles and introduce some new types of workout. I mean, there'll be some similarity, but there's also a little bit of new flavor for everybody as well. So first things first, let's look at our week 6 vocabulary. We're going to talk and spend some time this week focusing on heart rate, okay? The number of times that our heart beats. So the first term we have is resting heart rate. Resting heart rate is the number of beats per minute while the body is at rest or inactive. A normal resting heart rate for adults ranges from 60 to 100 beats per minute, also known as BPM. Generally, a lower heart rate at rest implies more efficient heart function and better cardiovascular fitness. For example, a well-trained athlete might have a normal resting heart rate closer to 40 beats per minute. Okay? If you were to do yours as someone that is relatively young and assuming you haven't had a lot of caffeine recently, you should have a relatively low resting heart rate. Okay? The more out of shape that you are, perhaps the effects of things like nicotine or alcohol or drugs on the body can cause the resting heart rate to rise. Okay? The next term is maximum heart rate. Maximum heart rate is the average maximum number of times your heart should beat per minute during exercise. Okay? We all have a maximum heart rate, and because, it doesn't mean that your heart can't beat faster than that number. It's the number your heart can safely beat, essentially. If your heart rate gets above that, it starts putting undue stress on the heart, on the arteries, and can really cause a number. At times, when people experience trauma or pain or anxiety, real strong anxiety, their heart rate may get even higher and is only going to make them feel worse. Okay, so maximum heart rate, it's the average number of maximum times it should beat, not that it can beat. Okay, so here's how we calculate our maximum heart rate. We're going to subtract our age from 220 beats per minute. Anything above 220 is not ideal. Okay, so a 17-year-old person would say 220 minus 17 equals 203 beats per minute. So a 17-year-old that's healthy would consider 203 beats per minute as their maximum heart rate. Okay? If you were 14, you would go 220 minus 14. If you were 19, you would go 220 minus 19. Me, I would go 220 minus 40. Okay? And that's how I would determine what my resting heart rate should be. Okay? One thing that we can learn to do easily is to check our heart rate. There are a few different ways that you can check your own heart rate at home, and that is something you are going to be asked to do this week. Okay? The first option is the radial artery. The radial artery runs down the arm and into the hand. Okay? So this is when you see someone checking pulse at your wrist, they are using the radial artery to check their pulse. So to check your pulse at your wrist, you're going to place 2 fingers between the bone and the tendon over your radial artery. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, you can easily find many clips on YouTube with doctors and medical professionals and even amateurs and students like yourself demonstrating this. But just below the wrist, you can feel where there, if you're on the bottom of your forearm, just under your thumb below the wrist, you should be able to feel that there's a bone there. Okay? If you place your 2 fingers between your bone and the palm of your hand, essentially, so right on that kind of demarcation line between the wrist and the forearm, okay, you should be able to feel your heartbeat. Okay, so you do that on the thumb side of your wrist, not on the pinky side, but you'll be the back of your hand, the back of your wrist, okay? Down underneath the thumb, all right? So your hand should be facing your face, and your fingers should be right there on top, all right? When you feel your pulse, you're going to count the number of beats for 15 seconds, okay? So I'm going to have a little watch or a timer in front of me, and for 15 seconds, I'm going to count that number. Then I'm going to multiply that number by 4. That is how I'm going to determine my beats per minute, okay? Another way to do it would be to count for 30 seconds and multiply by 2, okay? Either way, the math checks out, but that's how we determine our heart rate using the radial artery. The second option we're going to give you is the carotid artery, okay? This is when you see someone checking someone's pulse in your neck, okay? You can also use the carotid pulse method, which is located at the side of your esophagus on your neck. Place 2 fingers on the side of the throat, just under the jaw, and apply light pressure. Once you have located the pulse, count the number of beats in 15 seconds. Multiply the number by 4 to calculate your beats, just like you did with the radial artery. So to find the carotid again, okay, it is going to be not directly on the side of your neck. A lot of times it's just a little bit forward, slightly under your jawbone, okay? But it's going to be closer to the front than the back, and it's going to be right there on the side, okay? You should be able to check either side in order to locate your heartbeat, okay? Again, you can count it for 15 seconds. How many beats are there? Multiply by 4. Or you can count for 30 seconds and multiply by 2. Okay? But those are 2 ways that you can check your heartbeat. When we get to the activity log for this week, you're going to see that we're going to ask you to check your heart rate each day this week. Okay, so the last thing that we want to talk about today are exercise zones. So we spent some time talking about heart rate. And if you look, okay, at this graphic that we have for you, all right, you'll see it has age at the top, 20, 25, 30, 35, and so on in columns, okay? So if you remember the way that we check, I'll scroll back up so you can remember, the way that we check our maximum heart rate is we subtract our age, okay, from 220, and that's how we determine our maximum heart rate. So if at 100% effort, a 20-year-old would have 200 maximum heart rate, which means, okay, that a 17-year-old would have 203. So nobody in this class is 20, except for me. At least you're not supposed to be. All right. So you'll have to do a little bit of math to figure out where your numbers fall. Okay. But what we're looking for here, all right, is this. At 100% of your effort, a 20-year-old would have 200 beats per minute. At 90% effort, they would have 180. At 80, 160. At 70, they would have 140. And then it'll also list for 60 and 50. Okay. Each of those effort zones have been coded and labeled. These are the heart rates where your body should be during different types of training and should show you the stress that's being placed on your heart. Okay. You'll notice that there are no exercises listed at 100%. While we know what our max heart rate is, we don't want to try to get it there and keep it there for an extended period of time. That's not our goal. Okay. HIIT training, like we've already done this semester, should put us at about 90% of our resting heart rate. So again, for a 20-year-old at 90% or during HIIT training, their beats per minute should be somewhere around 180 BPM. Okay. Hardcore training, which again, we're looking for something that is requiring both cardio, but is also requiring people to move. A lot of times you might find people that do CrossFit might be in this hardcore training area, but we should be working at about 80% of our BPM. Okay. Cardio endurance would be about 70%. Okay. Extended cardio also known as the fat burning threshold, okay, it should be at about 60%. So when we can get our heart rate at about 60% of our maximum heart rate and sustain that, that is when we have triggered the body into a place where it is starting to burn fat. Okay? And then about 50% of our maximum heart rate is where we want to be when we are doing some type of a warm-up. All right? This week in class, we will be focusing on cardio endurance. All right? So we're trying to get to about 70% of our maximum heart rate. So each day this week, we will provide you with a cardio workout. It'll be a link to a YouTube video where someone will put you through a cardio-based workout. Now, in some ways, there will be some similarity to the HIIT training videos you've already seen, but they're not the same. Okay? So let's look at what our activity log looks like for this week. For the week of February 22nd through February 26th, okay, you'll see, again, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, our normal workout days, okay? Each day is going to be a cardio. This week, what you're going to do differently, and please make sure you pay attention, okay, is at the end of your workout, every day, you are going to record your heart rate, okay? Now, if you are not using our videos, if you're using your own workouts, if you're going to the gym and you're doing things, okay, I want you to check your heart rate at what you feel is one of the more difficult parts of your training session. And I want you to write that number down, save it in your phone, do whatever you got to, okay? Because when we get to our reflection question this week, you'll see it looks differently. First thing we're going to ask you to do is refer back to the vocab page, and we're going to ask what your age is, okay? From there, you're expected to calculate your maximum heart rate. Again, 220 minus your age equals your max BPM, okay? Then, each day of the week, we're going to ask you, like I said, to record your heart rate. Monday, you will use the radial artery method that was explained earlier in this video and on the vocab sheet. Tuesday, you will use the carotid artery method. Thursday and Friday, you can choose the method that you want, but you're still going to record your workout, and you're going to list that for us. In order to get full credit for the reflection question, you must answer each of these questions to the best of your ability. Okay? Hope you enjoyed your break, regardless of whether you're in my class, Coach Stilts, Coach T-Jack, Coach Vav, Coach Stu. If you owe makeup work, make sure you're getting it in. Enjoy your week, and go Jackets.